Welcome, everybody, to the special edition of Ask Your Fantasy Football Expert. I'm just going to do a bunch of Scott Fishbowl hangouts and see how that goes. We, meaning me and my multiple personalities, did a contest on Twitter last week to see which division would be the furthest along and what draft pick it would be. And it was the Go Fast division, and I don't remember, was it 307? But in any case, Tyler Buecher is here. He's the winner. So we're going to chat and do a little interview action. So Tyler, how's it going?
Really great, Zach. Happy to be along.
How's that famous DC traffic?
Oh, very busy, especially around the Beltway, trying to go to and from work. I live in Virginia and work in Maryland, so I just go through DC back and forth every day for work.
Well, that must be fun. Yeah, I'm just about to
Yes.
end a 5-month unemployed stretch and start working tomorrow. And of course, got to go right through the worst traffic in Atlanta. But that's the way it goes sometimes.
Congrats, that's great news.
I know it's all coming together. So probably less fantasy talk and more actual life going on for the near future. So Tyler, let's get a bit of your fantasy background. I see NumberFire mentioned. So what do you do for them?
Sure, I'm a sports analytical writer for them. Contribute articles for NumberFire. Been doing that for about a year now. Enjoyed it immensely ever since I started, and I've built a lot of great relationships through it.
So you're a real big fan of those charts, right?
Yes. I'm an engineer, so the numbers, they all jive with me very well.
So did you consider, crunching numbers for this unique kind of league? Because you said you hadn't done the fishbowl before, so I don't know if you've done the QB flex, and how did that affect your draft strategy?
No, actually, I have not done any kind of number crunching at all whatsoever with this. I did a couple mocks with 2 QB drafts just to get in the flow of things, but most of it was just winging it. Saw in value where I could in the draft and taking action when I could.
So did you think oh, I'm going to go a certain way, or how did the draft unfold for you? How did you just have to kind of go with the flow?
Yeah, I didn't really have a set strategy or anything in mind when I first started it, but as the draft went, you got to see where other people were taking other players. Kind of just jumped on those opportunities then when I saw something that I liked.
Let's see, are we actually showing? Yeah, we got your draft showing here just to show everybody, because you want to take a nice close look. Actually, to make myself feel kind of sick, I looked at my draft from last year, and it was absolutely terrible. So I'm hoping we improve this year. I basically got Aaron Rodgers in the first, and then after that, it was just crying. But as you just see, in the first round, you were just like, okay, I'm going stud, Dez, all the way. Hopefully he's not holding out.
I wasn't gung-ho on Dez, but I like his upside. It's hard to dispute the number of touchdowns he's scored year in and year out. So I wanted that high ceiling with that first player, especially with it being PPR. Dez isn't a PPR magnet by any means, but he's definitely going to excel in this format.
Well, the thing about Dez, he had a bunch of touchdowns last year, and Dallas didn't throw very much, and I feel like they're going to throw more this year, just based on their running backs. And maybe they have some injuries in the offensive line, so Romo has to let it go. And who else are you going to throw it to? Cole Beasley? Come on.
Cole Beasley, that's it. So, yeah, I think Dez was a great start to it. And I followed up with his former teammate, DeMarco Murray. Excited to see how he does with the Eagles and Chip Kelly's offense.
Yeah, is it weird? Is it just a strange feeling? Because I had this feeling with this draft. Just when you had to take quarterbacks, it was like a moment of panic, or you're like, yeah, that's the way it's going.
So I knew starting with the Superflex format, I knew I wanted to start one every week that I would play no matter what. And Matt Ryan kind of fell into that. That was more of just how the board felt towards me, though. I kind of wanted to get one within the first 5 rounds, but it wasn't really set on when or where I would grab him. Matt Ryan ended up being my choice, though. And so I got Matt Ryan as the QB1, and then I had grabbed, where was it, Andy Dalton in the 8th.
Fellow Ginger.
Yes, the fellow Ginger Ninja. So I'm going to view Andy Dalton as QB flex item with Derek Carr filling in for bye weeks. Depending on matchups, we'll see how it goes with his sophomore year.
Dick, park the car. There is the thing about quarterbacks is most of them do play 16 games. So you had 3 starters who probably all 3 started all 16 games last year. So you got to feel pretty good about having that 3-guy rotation. Because I did the same thing with my draft. I took 3 quarterbacks and left it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Although in the late rounds, you're seeing guys like Ryan Fitzpatrick, like Tyrod Taylor went. That's one thing that made me think, okay, if you're a Bills fan this year, you can't have a lot of confidence in your team just because of how, like Josh McCown and Johnny Manziel went before any Bills quarterback. So sorry, Bills quarterbacks. Sorry, street free agent. You have a defense though, so maybe you don't need a quarterback so badly.
Yeah, and a running game. But yeah, that was my big point in grabbing Carr was there's only so many teams that have guaranteed starters throughout the full season. When I saw people start grabbing their 3rd quarterback, I knew the run was going to go quickly, so I hopped on Carr then.
Looks like you waited on tight ends. You're okay doing kind of streaming with that position?
Yeah, so I'm okay with streaming in the tight ends. Ended up with Owen Daniels, took a flyer on Vernon Davis, and Rob Hausler in Cleveland. Owen Daniels will probably be my weekly start, but with this league, I have no idea what to expect, so I wanted to take a couple gambles on upside players. Vernon Davis was only a year away from scoring 13 touchdowns, so hopefully he gets a few more red zone targets in his new offense.
Well, if you're going to slough a position, it's definitely tight end because you don't get much of a bonus. You got the 2 quarterbacks, obviously, so that position's doing better. And running back, you get that bonus for carry. And wide receiver, well, you just have to draft a bunch of them, and you can start up to 7, so why not? And then tight end is kind of left in the lurch. I've heard from Scott that he may consider going like tight end premium next year, 1.5 PPR, which, something else to think about, right?
Mm-hmm. I did like the quarter point per carry. That was definitely a fun addition to it this year. I've done a couple leagues like that, and the scoring totals are just massive each week.
Well, looking at your division, or there are people in your division that you want to take down. That you're like, I got Prestige Worldwide. He's in the Step Brothers Prestige Worldwide division. If I look at the screen, which means I'm not looking at you. Anyway, it's not you. It's multi-monitor I'm doing here.
I do have my eye on the most accurate fantasy football expert, Mr. John Paulson, with 4 for 4. To repeatedly rank as high as he does is, I'm just impressed and excited to compete against him.
Yeah, you got to take him down, Of course, he might be doing like 50 leagues, so you don't know which one he's paying attention the most to. Come on, John, step it up. I was looking to get the list of people in that division. I actually saw Step Brothers once, but I didn't remember Prestige Worldwide. Must have been the company they were coming up with.
Yeah, that was the name of their company. Have you seen Step Brothers?
I saw it once on cable, and it was like a lot of Will Ferrell movies. It had funny moments, but I was like, okay. I kind of watched it, and I like John C. Reilly. It's a good pairing there, because he's getting into comedy now at this point of his career. But yeah, I was just like, okay, that's good. A little longer than it probably could have been, but yeah, it's all right. I don't know. What you think?
I say it definitely grew on me the second time I watched it. Now I just love it. Anytime it's on, I'll watch it.
So it's good stuff. So you have, Courtney Kirby from Her Fantasy, and of course you're in it. So that's the guy to beat. And the usual grouping of fans. Actually, we got an Australian player, so that's cool.
Yeah, it was actually really impressive. So there are different times in the draft where he'd be on a different sleep schedule than us. He'd wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning and just make a draft pick. It was very impressive with him. You
get that night 8 hours off, which helped me because I think one round. I didn't see my pick was coming up, and I didn't make it till the following morning, so I kept the league waiting for 10 or 11 hours. And I'm sure it basically was my entire wait time for the entire draft. But yeah, you're the other side of the world. You got a pre-draft. But were you like me? Like anytime I had a pick, except sort of toward the late rounds, I went ahead and pre-drafted. I just like being on the clock and making my decision then. I don't, unless I know I'm going to be out. I want to peruse everything. I want to overthink things. Probably is what I want to do. Is that how you feel?
No, I like to think a couple steps ahead because you never know how it'll go. And with the pre-draft, you're allowed to like pick several players in advance. I usually had a few like in the order of how I would take them. Not usually ranked by position, but more of the value of where I thought I should take them.
So you're feeling pretty good about Tevin Coleman this year, seeing you took him in the 7th round, and
yes,
high
actually,
hopes of rookie running backs.
Yes, Tevin Coleman and Buck Allen. We'll see how they do. Who knows? Especially with Devonta Freeman there in Atlanta. Depends how Shanahan will use them, but I'd expect Coleman to get those start with the associated carries. But in colleges are boom or bust. So open for a lot of boom in Atlanta.
We had the good pass game. They don't seem to care about their offensive line because they never have anybody good on there. So and they did take a left tackle last year, but they lost Sam Baker.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they reached to get him, then they gave him a big extension. I don't think he ever had a really good year, and he just injured himself out of the league. But I mean, it's got to be odd for Atlanta fans to go, hey, our running back's not 37 years old this year. This is cool. I mean, between Freeman and Coleman, they're, 23, 24? I don't know. I thought I heard somewhere that Coleman was like an old rookie because, those I don't know if you're big into the ageism thing, like Rotoviz can be.
I like with the breakout years. I don't know Coleman's age offhand, but I think he's one of the younger ones.
And I really think, because you took Andy Dalton, and Andy Dalton gets a lot of crap for his playoff performance, but I really feel that last year, A.J. Green was hurt. Marvin Jones didn't play at all. Tyler Eifert got hurt in the first quarter of the first game. So he had a bunch of injuries. I feel like he's going to have a much better year this year.
I agree, too. I'm really high on the Cincinnati offense. I was trying to grab Marvin Jones as well, hoping for a bounce-back year from him. But with him, Eifert coming back healthy, too. I expect big things out of Cincinnati. I think, 2013, Dalton finished in top 3, top 5 quarterback. Hopefully bounces back.
Andy Dalton had one of those years that probably was better for best ball like 2 years ago because he had some crazy 300-yard, 3-touchdown games. Then he would have like the stinkers against the AFC North. But he did, overall it added up to a good year. And last year, it just seems like there are 20 quarterbacks you think can put up top 12 numbers because quarterbacks do that. They just put up a bunch of attempts. I got Alex Smith as my quarterback, too, in the 10th round. I'm still, shuddering over that.
He still put up some great numbers last year, a couple weeks.
He's kind of forgotten, and because he doesn't throw the ball more than 5 yards downfield, but he does still run, and that was on the Rummy and Ray show, making a big deal about the quarterbacks that Run for Johnny got because they do run some. You get that bonus because of the 4-point passing touchdown. So why not? Alex Smith doesn't run a ton, but you get 60 carries or something from him. So that's helpful. I was just looking to see a Marvin Jones I got in the 16th round, and I still saw players until the last round that I kind of felt good about, just because of not just, hey, there's a guy in an NFL team. It's like, hey, this guy could actually contribute. I think we both got Danny Amendola really late. And I took Sammy Coates in my last pick. I'm like, hey, why not? Maybe he does something. You get the flyers on the good offense. That's kind of the idea.
Yes.
Because I got Virgil Green. And, Alan Hearns, of course. You got to get a piece of that Jacksonville offense. That's what I always say.
There you go. I got my Denard Robinson picks.
Yeah, come and think of it. Blake Bortles is my 3rd quarterback. Yikes. It's the kind of league where you're like, because here's how my division turned out. Like, actually, people drafted quarterbacks at the beginning like a regular draft. Like, it was the 4th round. I didn't pick at the turn, and 3 quarterbacks were gone, which is how a normal draft probably would go. So I took Cam Newton in the 4th just because it seemed like a bargain. And then by the time my 5th pick came up, 12 quarterbacks were up the board. So occasionally you get that. You start the run, and then sometimes you're like, oh, crap, I'm at the end. I got nothing.
At least you got Cam Newton, though, getting those 6 points.
Yeah, I got him and Jonathan Stewart, so I feel like we got a nice scoring most of the rushing touchdowns for that team. And I feel like Cam Newton 2 or 3 years ago had a kind of disappointing year because the defense was actually really good. And that's an underrated aspect, I think, to fantasy. I don't know if you've ever looked into that, but like if a team's defense is really good, that might hurt the cap of the offense. Unless you're like the Patriots and they say, screw you, we're going to score 50 points.
Well, yeah, that makes sense of altering game flow where teams like won't have to start passing to catch up at the end of the games. Could definitely prohibit points from some of your top scorers. Well, in those kind of offenses, though, that's when you want to aim for the running backs.
That's true. So what are your thoughts on drafting in July and the fact that you can't make any waiver moves until the season actually starts?
I've actually really enjoyed it. I started drafting right after the Super Bowl, joining some MFL 10s. So I've been kind of going at least 1 or 2 a week ever since. This is the first actual one where there will be actual trading and other things involved. Well, not trade. I'm sorry, waiver wire pickups. But I am happy that we started this before August picks up with the rest of everyone else's drafts and everything. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, in a way, this becomes like the comic book movie in April. It's like, this is the beginning of the summer. This is the beginning of the fall. Like, winter is coming, Game of Thrones kind of thing. Like, this season is happening, and now you have to dodge the bullets for 2 months and hope none of your guys get injured that are major players. Yeah, I took Monty Ball in the 3rd round last year. I'll actually admit that. That was a rough one.
Well, this is the time, though, to make those kind of gambles where you don't know the depth charts. You don't know who's landing where.
But I can actually remember thinking, I think it was 302. I got Monty Ball. I'm like, he's going in the 1st or 2nd round in that draft. It's a bargain because all the quarterbacks. And it was a relative bargain, but it ended up not going so well.
Have you been avoiding C.J. Anderson this year now because of that?
I picked him up his rookie year in a dynasty league, and of course, my team was DeMarco Murray and a bunch of decimated pain. So when he came on last year, it didn't really help my team very much, but I'm excited about him this year. And I feel like he's the guy, although that whole new coaching staff, maybe they still like Monty Ball for some reason. It's still not written in stone. Like, I think he was a little out of shape when he got a shot last year, so it took him a few weeks to really get going. Because I remember him on the waiver wire, I'm like, I don't trust this coaching staff, and that would have been a nice pickup. But
yeah. I
feel like he's the best guy there, and I just don't know what's going to happen with Peyton. I feel like Peyton's kind of done. I know he had the quad injury last year, but I feel like finally the age is showing, the surgeries are showing, and I don't know if he can do it this year. We'll find out. Other people were way more excited. I feel like I saw him going in the 4th and 5th round of these drafts. Like in MFL 10s, because you've probably done a bunch of them, like he's going in the 9th round, and it seems crazy after the last few years he's had, but I just was a little afraid.
Yeah, it seems like ever since that quad injury, I think it was the Rams game last year, where he just kind of went downhill ever since that game. I'm not counting him out, though. It's still Peyton Manning. I'll say at the right price, though, I'll grab him.
Well, with your engineering, number crunching ways, is it easier for you to not get emotional about players that maybe have burned you in the past?
Oh, not at all. I have zero emotional attachment. I usually participate in a ton of leagues, and with that being said, I'm rooting for this player against this player at any given Sunday night game or whatever. So usually when Sundays roll around, I'm just kind of cheering for football in general. Big Eagles fan, but when it comes to fantasy, I'd rather win some money.
Well, the Eagles are kind of fascinating. I think a lot of people are wondering if Chip Kelly's going to be out of the league in 2 years or if he's going to just unleash the hounds on changing the way teams do everything. So you still on the bandwagon?
Yes, it's very interesting. You don't often see a team get a brand new facelift with a brand new quarterback, running back, and wide receiver starters. You don't often see that. So this whole new Eagles team, plus they took out 3/4 of their secondary. I'm excited to see how it goes. So I saw an info picture earlier this week where somebody had tweeted out, I think it was Chip Kelly's inherited team that he got from Andy Reid, and there was like a strike through of like everyone's name that had been removed from the roster. I think he's down to like 15 or so players left.
Yeah, it was kind of odd that you got rid of McCoy because he had a big contract, and then he picked up DeMarco Murray and I think paid him even more, and gave Ryan Matthews a bigger contract as a backup than I think any guy got last year as a starter. And Darren Sproles is still on the team. So, yeah, maybe any of those guys. And maybe it's more of a best ball thing, but I think I got Ryan Matthews in an NFL 10 like in the 11th round. And I was like, that feels pretty good. I mean, there are probably going to be some drives where Darren Sproles is on the field for the whole time and he'll get a few catches a game. So, I mean, I feel good at least about the potential of the running game. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there were plenty of weeks where you could use any of their running backs. I know LaShawn McCoy had, I think it was 58 red zone carries last year, but he had the fewest of the people that had 58. I think Marshawn Lynch had the same, and John Blank right now, somebody else, but they'd often like revert to Chris Polk instead to punch it in. So I'm curious if they'll do the same thing here, though, with Ryan Matthews instead of DeMarco Murray. But that was DeMarco, the other guy. DeMarco was actually one of the best at punching it in. So I don't know what kind of balance Chip Kelly will do, when he'll use each back, if it'll be like per drive, a quarter. It'll be interesting to see, though.
And what about Sam Bradford? What are your thoughts on him as the guy? Should we be grabbing Mark Sanchez with our last pick just in case?
Well, Sam Bradford right now is pretty cheap to acquire. So I'm taking him in several drafts right now, considering there isn't much to invest. And I think Chip Kelly's quarterbacks have combined for QB1 numbers anytime they play. The only thing you worry about him is his injury history. So who knows what we'll get this year with Sam Bradford.
Yeah, I guess it's that sports science that the Eagles have had fewer injuries, but I don't know. It seems like multiple ACLs is kind of beyond just, drink some smoothies and, put some electrodes on to check how you're doing. But, I think I picked Sanchez up on waivers in the league last year, like a 2-quarterback, and it still kind of like hurts to start Mark Sanchez, but it does seem plug and play. I mean, Nick Foles was going like in the 4th round last year, and that was, a bit of a disaster. But yeah, I don't see Bradford still as a double-digit guy, and maybe if he looks good in the preseason, he'll jump up to the 8th round. I mean, still, I don't see him getting into the top 12. So it's not a big investment. It's not going to hurt you if you pick him up and he looks bad. You just dump him. I mean, you'll probably have another quarterback who's decent. So it's worth a shot. I think he may have gone like in the 8th in our draft. Went, of course, higher because 2-quarterback, right?
Right. Yeah, I wasn't too keen on grabbing him in this format because I don't know how well his knees will hold up running.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Foles is one of the slower quarterbacks, but he still had a few good runs and had some rushing touchdowns. And I think Bradford was a decent athlete before all the tears, and it was weird that they traded Foles and had to give up. I think, didn't the Eagles give up? I guess it was all of that trade for Bradford is contingent on him actually playing this year. So, yeah.
They also gave up a 2nd-round pick, too, and acquired Bradford's big contract. It was a very puzzling move and a head scratcher, without a doubt. But we'll see what's in Chip Kelly's master plan.
Yeah, I feel like the Rams kind of like, well, Foles isn't that great of a quarterback, but he's under his rookie deal, and why not? So, as opposed to Bradford, who I think was the last #1 pick who got that giant contract, and he's getting every penny of that contract.
Yeah, the last year of it,
whether he's earned it or not. So we have to ask the very important Ask Your Fantasy Football question that everybody gets asked, and only one has refused to answer. Football or sex? What do you think of more?
Ooh, tie.
Tie. Oh,
Tie.
depend on the time of day or the time of year, right?
Yes. Well, every time of year.
Well, there is no off season, they say.
There is no off season.
That's what I hear. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, your articles and following you on Twitter and all that good stuff.
Sure. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is @gingersauce4u, the number 4, the letter U. Right over at NumberFire.com.
And that's all. That's all she wrote.
That's all she wrote.
So do you have a good, like a restaurant recommendation for DC? Because my wife's in town for a couple of days in a conference. And the strange thing about DC is you have a couple of fantasy football experts who don't like food, and Chad Parsons and CD Carter. They've already admitted that. So maybe you actually like the taste of food. So I was wondering if there's some good spots to hit, or maybe you don't get to down DC because you're in Arlington.
I did live in DC for a year, but now I moved right outside to save a few bucks. But I will say DC does brunch very well. There's multiple places for bottomless brunches, very good food, and mimosas.
Mimosas?
Yes.
Yeah, I think on Sunday, because my wife got in early, she did mention a mimosa. So yeah, all good stuff.
Yes,
well, thanks, Tyler. Congrats on winning. You feel like a winner. And,
I do. The Go Fast division was a good one to bet on.
I sent off copies of the ebooks to everybody so you can read the Ask Your Fantasy Football Expert. And now we have another expert to add to the list. So thanks, Tyler, for doing this and chatting a little bit about your Scott Fishbowl experience. And everybody go to NumberFire and check him out. And, of course, follow on Twitter. And you can follow me, Zach_Law. That's it. So thank you, everybody, and good night and happy drafting.